Call to order a public hearing on the application of Vincent Culp on behalf of VC LLC for landmarks review of file number 26-11 for exterior modifications to the Sproat building. A quorum of the Landmarks Board is present. I will now ask members to disclose any pre-hearing or ex parte contacts regarding the application or abstentions based on conflicts of interest or bias.
Jacob contacted me looking for photographs, historic photographs, and you didn't include the ones I gave you, did you? Those aren't in the record? Like the one that shows the 1912 photograph of the rear of the building? Okay, so I've seen photographs, as-built photographs of the building, which are referred to descriptively, but the actual photograph isn't in our packet. So if there's something that requires understanding of what the photograph actually shows, I will bring that up and we can add that to the record, but I suspect it won't be necessary.
Cindy? Libby?
No.
Okay, and I have none. Would anyone present or online like to challenge any Landmarks Board members' ability to hear this application? If not, let me provide an overview of this hearing and some rules of procedure. First, we will hear the city staff report. Then we will hear from the applicant. Then we will take testimony from the public. After we have taken testimony and asked questions, we will close the record and render a decision. Our decision is not final until it's reduced to writing. To appeal our decision, you must participate orally or in writing. Does anyone have any questions regarding the hearing process or have any procedural issues they would like to raise? Any questions for staff? Oh, sorry. Let's start with the staff report.
Thank you, Chair. This landmarks review is for exterior alterations to the Sproat building under file number 2026-11, including installation of new windows on the second story of the northern elevation, a rooftop stair enclosure, rooftop railing and decking, changes to the second story storefront glass with no exterior appearance changes, and rooftop mechanical unit modifications. As outlined within the report, conditions of approval are included to modify the applicant proposed design of the second story northern windows and the rooftop stair enclosure. Staff found the applicant's proposed aluminum frame rectangular window system is architecturally incompatible and would require removing the northern elevation's only historic window. As the findings outlined, starting on page 6 of the report, staff has included a condition of approval that the existing northern window shall remain, and the remaining windows proposed to be installed on the northern elevation shall match the existing window, sash, and framing size, color, and material. Included on page 7 is the rendering that demonstrates what that acceptable design would look like. For the proposed stair enclosure, it is designed as a contemporary addition that does not mimic or fake architectural elements. Because this stair enclosure is largely screened by the existing parapet and building mass, its visual impact from public rights of way is minimized. However, to ensure that it does not represent elements from surrounding buildings, a condition of approvals included the rooftop stair enclosure shall be constructed of wood, with the primary body painted dark green to match the Oak Street storefront system, and accented with dark brown trim to match the color of the building's darker brick inlay cornice. Similarly, the proposed rooftop composite deck and railing will sit below the existing parapet, and as such will be screened from adjacent public rights of way. To ensure consistency with the structure, staff has included a condition of approval that the 2-inch steel tube for railing and composite decking must be a dark natural tone, such as matte black or brown, as to not detract from the character of the site or district. Based on the findings of fact drafted in the staff report, staff recommends approval of the landmarks application subject to conditions as outlined on page 15 of the staff report. Thank you.
Any questions for staff before we hear from the applicant?
I have a question concerning the rooftop alterations. What is the present condition relating to the stairs? Is there a structure associated with the stairs, or is it just a hatch?
They can confirm, but I don't think there's any hatch up there at all.
So there's nothing. Oh, I guess I can wait until after they testify. I can wait, thanks.
Any other questions for staff?
Thank you.
We'll now hear from the applicant.
Thank you.
Your
So,
name?
this Vince Cole, I'm the owner of the Sprout Building. So just a brief overview of kind of what we're planning. And we've reviewed and agree with the city's recommendations. Our overall plan is to just repair and revitalize the top floor of that building. And the rooftop to allow for community gathering space to host weddings, birthday parties, corporate events. This is a really cool space with a lot of historic significance, and it's been vacant. I feel like it's going to waste, so we would really like to revitalize it and get it to the point where people can enjoy it again and actually get it in use. So basically, we would like to expand the view of to the landscape from that top floor by adding more windows in the same shape, size, design as the existing window. And then add a safe access to the roof. And to answer the question, currently there's a hatch on the roof. There's an extension ladder that goes up to a wooden ladder that's in the rafters. So it's not practical. It's not safe. It doesn't belong there in any way. So what we're proposed doing is building a nice stairwell that goes up to the roof with a reasonable hatch in a spot where people can enjoy the view up there. And we went around town, and the view of the actual rooftop is very, very limited from any street, around town. I think there's one spot up one street where you can kind of see the roof, but it's really limited. So, I guess to close, we have reviewed and we do agree with the city's recommendations for the whole project.
I mean, if it's an event, it's gonna be an event site up there. I mean, for activities and all that. How do you get food and catering and kitchen, everything? I mean, do you have the elevator ready to go up, or what's the plan on that?
So we have a kitchen on the main floor. And then we have proposed in the plans to have a catering kitchen on that main floor as well.
Are they going through site plan review?
They're in a concurrent site plan review, but that kind of exists outside of the landmarks review staff report.
Yeah, so here on the plan, some structure that was gonna be associated with covering the stairwell, is that? Did I see that or the?
So that was the plan, is to put like kind of like a doghouse landing up there to where you have a covered access where you're entering the rooftop versus just having a hatch where you're going through there and leaving the hatch open and then closing it when you're done. Having a actual standing entrance to that rooftop that's covered
So is that one of the conditions of approval to talk about using wood in that structure and the colors?
That's correct. So there's no conditions of approval that modify like the massing or location. It's just material and color for compatibility.
We'll now take public testimony. For those wishing to provide testimony, please wait until you are called. Please come to the podium and state your name and address. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff and the applicant before we close the public hearing and begin deliberations. Is there anyone who would like to testify, or is anyone online?
No. Make sure your microphone.
Are there any questions for staff of the applicant?
Sorry, I'm looking at it, I'm trying to get it. Oh, I apologize. So is the doghouse gonna be the only thing built on the roof, and it's essentially gonna be used as like a viewing area?
So that will be the entrance to the roof. The plan is to do a rooftop deck or patio kind of in the center of the roof to where people can gather. So there'll be like a handrail around that deck.
but no other structures.
No cover, anything like that is a plan.
So on the same subject, I was having a little trouble with the drawings, understanding what structure is there. It talks about the parapets and how with the parapets there, it's difficult to see anything, it seems to be not be visible. But what can you sort of walk us through or describe what those parapets look like?
Yeah.
So, my name is Jamie Crawford. I'm the applicant representative. I'm with Bell Design Company, 1992 Southeast Lark Street. I've signed in. So there's about a 4-foot parapet. And then for public safety, there's going to be those kind of, the tube steel roof barrier railing. And we've suggested that because from the public right of way, it's less noticeable than, you know, a solid state. Right now in the building, there's mechanical equipment that obviously needs to remain. That is more obstructive and intrusive, but it's a necessity for the building, obviously, to function. So the doghouse looking thing, or the staircase enclosure, is mainly just for that cover and for accessibility as required by the building code. So
And so I saw something in the drawing that made it look like the parapets had angles like that. Is that?
I believe they do. I mean, the existing parapets are gonna remain. So
When you're saying anything that I'm seeing is the existing. section,
Yes.
You're not modifying any
No.
of that. In that case, I have no questions on that. Thanks.
no, the deck will be in the middle, with that kind of railing kind of off of the parapets.
I didn't remember it looking like that, so I thought maybe you were modifying it, but if you're not modifying it, then it's no issue.
No, thank you. So the deck, like approximately how far away from the parapet does the deck start?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but the wooding for the deck.
I want to say it's.
If you can pull the site, shouldn't you?
Yeah, if you guys go to page 43 of your packet, you'll see the proposed rooftop plan, and it'll show that the future viewing deck kind of runs the entirety of the building going east to west, and then really is on the middle section on the kind of north to south.
So can you repeat what you just said about, falling up the page, so what am I looking at?
On page 43, you'll see that the future viewing deck is in the middle of the building and just kind of extends to the east and west parapets in that middle section. And that's on the drawing to the right-hand side of page 43 of that packet. It also calls out the location of the proposed fence or barrier.
Those of us who have paper packets, we don't have page 43.
Okay.
It's in the drawing package, sheet A1.10.
Okay, out of Bell Design.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Were there any studies done for like sightlines from, street level?
So not necessarily studies, but the approval criteria is mainly concerned about view sheds from like the public right of way to the building. And Vince went in extensively around the town and found that there's really only one area. Do you want to explain that one area where you could actually see the top?
Yeah, it's the staircase, like the river staircase that goes up the next street up. You can see the whole view, yeah, right up there. That's kind of the one spot where we can really see the full roof. I walked all up and down that street, and there's a couple spots where you can like see through the brush a little bit and kind of see maybe little portions of it, but that's kind of the spot where you can see the whole roof. Anything down on the waterfront, and surrounding the building and all the streets, you really can't see anything at all.
Yeah, and the steel tubing is also gonna just kind of blend in with that landscaping or landscape view, excuse me.
You know, the applicant, did you address I think the one public comment about, access to the neighboring roof?
Yeah. To respond to that, I don't know how that would be a possibility. For someone to access my roof, they would have to either go into a non-public area and then somehow get a key to get into my locked doors on the top floor, and then set up the ladder, like an extension ladder to get to the other ladder up in the attic, and then get to the roof and then jump over so the likelihood of that happening, I don't understand it. I don't.
It have been done.
Yeah, he's supposing that's how they got there. He has no evidence of that.
I have no idea how that happened, you know.
He doesn't know how they got there. He's simply saying they must have gotten there from my neighboring building. Three parkour.
Yeah, those doors remain locked on my top floor, and that's the only access to the roof. So I don't have any other stairwell access to that roof at all. I believe the roof in question does have access from the outside to their roof, but I don't know that for a fact. But I just don't understand how that would possibly happen. I'm not saying it didn't, but I can't really wrap my head around that.
And if I could add, right now, the upstairs space is just being used for storage. So even if an unhonest man, like not honest person, were to access that area, somehow manage to get up on the roof and then, Spider-Man themselves elsewhere, it would be better for that area to be an event space that's actively being used by a business that is under lock and key with something more than just a hatch on top of it. So as my grandpa used to say, locks only keep an honest man out. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, again, I'm not saying that couldn't happen. Someone would have to go through a lot of work in order to get up there and do that. And it involved breaking in through locks in the building, so.
Yeah, because I don't think that relates to the landmark status. I think that more would be an issue of the general land use process that's going on.
So the reason that staff included that condition that would allow for one to run on the west side, north-south as well, was if there's some kind of compatibility aspect that comes up in the site plan review, that we don't need to go back through a landmarks piece for that modification. So we're kind of leaving it open now, but that's what we're recommending. So in the event that comes out on the other site plan aspect, there's opportunity for that.
Landmarks issue is that there may be added to conditions at some point.
Just that one piece, and really the intent was no matter what, it's gonna match presumably what, the other ones look like, and it's all proposed to be beneath the parapet. So there's really no opportunity for it to be viewed for public right of way unless you're outside of the historic district looking down on it.
Comfortable they won't be raised with wire.
Yeah, the condition is to match. Yeah.
We could put that on if you want.
I think I'm good. Interesting.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This concludes the public testimony and oral argument portion of this hearing. I will now close the public hearing. We will now begin deliberations.
So I'm really happy to see that we're all about adaptive reuse, and what they're doing is taking a space that isn't perfectly usable now and bringing it into the new millennium and making it a usable space. So the overall plan I think is great. In terms of the specific landmark impacts, the only thing I was concerned about was the window. And the window is such a strange thing in the beginning because you have a single window sticking out on the north elevation is weird. And when Jacob asked me if it was built that way, I went back and said, yeah, it was. I still can't explain why that would be the case, but it is a classic thing that you see as you're coming across the bridge. You see this one little window peeking out there. All I can guess just from historic context is that the Mountain Hotel was in front of it and it had a big cupola on it, and they may have been, either put that there so they could see the cupola or so they could see around the cupola or something, but, you know, that's not our problem. But as long as the windows, you know, I don't have a problem with adding some additional windows. That elevation actually looks kind of funny with a single window on it. Having a couple more windows, I think, is completely compatible from a historic point of view. And as long as they look the same, I think that's great. And all the other conditions, I think, are, you know, are pretty standard.
I agree with Arthur.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
It's funny with one.
Yeah, I agree too. You know, it's a subordinate elevation, even though it's publicly viewable, but like you said, compatible in line with secretary standards.
I was gonna ask you, because you're the expert in kind of that stuff, and I kind of felt like it totally makes sense that you should be able to say, yeah, it looks kind of funny without other windows, so even though they weren't there, you can put them in. Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would fit within the secretary of jurisdictions without looking at the yes and nos. Especially since if it were front elevation, it would maybe be more concerning.
Right.
Even though it is publicly viewable, not knowing what was going on historically in that space, exactly like you mentioned, possible cupola or something else that may have driven the construction of just the one window. This seems to match better or be more compatible with what might have been that historic design.
Thank you.
Libby, do you have any?
I was thinking, I don't think the window is up at all time. It's way up there. And I mean, who looks up there that often? It's just a dark red brick wall with one window. So I don't think it's, you know, I just don't think it was a bad noticeable thing. But it'd be good to have them, you know, matching windows and separate, but identical.
I just tell you,
Put together though, in a kind of a frame.
Every time you come across a bridge.
now that you know it's there, you see it every time, right?
Yeah,
You will see it.
Reading passage today, I was like, that is weird.
Yeah, it's like, I cannot not see it now, and it drives me crazy because I never noticed it before. When he sent me the picture, I thought, it's like, no, that can't be right. And I was sure I'd find some explanation of how that had changed.
Yeah, that's one I'm reviewing.
It's a whiskey tango sign.
So those signs are those are vinyl signs or something, right? They're not on the brick though.
Nothing new is contemplated in this landmarks review, and typically signs fall outside of landmarks anyway.
No, I understand. The reason why those were allowed in the first place is because they're not on the brick. They're some application.
I don't know the history to the sign permitting process for that.
Okay. I was just, when I first saw those signs appear, maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago or whatever, I think I asked questions about it just because it looked to me like it was painted on brick, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Do you happen to know? No, it's not painted. That's what I thought, yeah.
More discussion? I agree with Arthur, the like adaptive reuse and bringing life and vibrancy to a space that has been dormant for a long time helps the city, helps the historic district. So I make a motion.
Recommend a motion I can make. Oh, you let's make a motion? Okay, go make a motion.
I'll
I
second.
didn't know the chair could make a motion.
I think typically it's somebody other than the chair that makes the motion.
Yeah.
Recommended motion. I move to approve file number 2026-11 to allow for exterior modifications to the Sproat Building as described in the staff report, including the findings and recommended conditions of approval in the staff report.
Second that? Any in opposition? Any in favor? Oh,
Aye.
all. Thank you.
And you too.
Welcome.
Good project. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh. So will there be a parking issue with them? Are they gonna do a new one?
That's,
Yeah, will there be any in lieu of?
There's certainly opportunity for that, yeah. But that'll be all contemplated in the site plan review.
No, traffic now. Landmarks was pretty exciting.
yeah, I was a little surprised to see that. I started to read through it and realize, yeah, none of this is relevant.
Send back more information.
Yeah.
I call to order a public hearing on the application by Casey McCacken on behalf of Dana and Denise Love for a landmarks review of file number 2026-19 for exterior modifications to the promotion building and site. Does anyone joining us need a hearing process overview? First, we will hear the city staff report. Then we will hear from the applicant. Then we will take testimony from the public. After we have taken testimony and asked questions, we will close the record and render a decision. Our decision is not final until it's reduced to writing. To appeal our decision, you must participate orally or in writing. Does anyone have any questions about the hearing process or any procedural issues they would like to raise? Do any of the board members have any ex parte contacts regarding the application or abstentions based on conflicts of interest or bias?
So here, I was on the landmarks board. I believe Cindy may have been also, when Dana submitted a plan for a food cart pod, whatever you call that. So I have all that stuff in my head. There was a whole bunch of discussion we had about that. And I don't see that as being part of the record. But I think, depending on where the discussions go, it may be relevant that we had extensive discussions of what the historical context was in that area. Specifically the fact that it was a kind of a backyard to the downtown, had completely mixed uses, everything from warehousing space for telephone, utility poles to car dealerships and lumber yards and things like that. So that nature of that may come into play depending on where a discussion goes. So I kind of want to bring that out if anyone has any questions, because
I think I remember making a finding that it has a different history than Oak Street.
Exactly. I think that's really important. And if you're thinking about this in the context of Oak Street, you might come to a different conclusion than you would for this being Cascade. And so we had a lot of talk about that. If you haven't read that, you might dig that up just for your own edification. I think it's useful.
That's good context.
Yeah. And I guess what I can say is, if anything's relevant, I'll bring it up and I'll put it into the record.
Chelsea, do you have any? Chris? Maybe?
No, I just think it's interesting what originally was. It was a wetsuit factory and it was huge and it was global. I mean, people from all over the world.
I got a closet full of them.
Well, that's what made the gorge. That's helped. I mean, the gorge is about that, basically. Anyway, I read a little bit about it. I like it. I just like the idea of starting in San Francisco and San Diego. You own it?
I know.
I just go online.
I
You
thought,
you wanna know what else? No, but no.
take your cap off, Dana, so we know it's you. Yeah, yay.
So you're Dana Love,
Yes, he is.
and you're the owner and you're retired. Oh, my. Retired. But, it was a showroom and factory. I love that. Anyway, that's, I like that. Not important.
Thank you, Libby.
but-
It's good history.
And I have no ex parte contacts. Would anyone like to challenge any landmarks board members' ability to hear the application? Let's start with the staff report.
Thank you, Chair. This landmarks review is for exterior alterations to the promotion building under file number 2026-19, which includes modifications to a previously approved design by the Landmarks Board under file number 2024-12. The alterations consist of changes to the storefront windows and door on the western elevation, installation of speakers on the western elevation, modifications to the northern elevation lighting, removal of previously approved northern elevation overhead door, removal of approved fire pits, and modifications to approved sail shade structure. The two previously approved elements, the modifications to the overhead door in the southern facade and the installation of the fire pit, were never actually installed. And the applicant now requests to remove them both from the project scope, thereby maintaining existing conditions. The most recent proposal, described as sail shade option A, was found by staff to be incompatible with the district and site. Additionally, the revised structure appears to be different from the design of the promotion building and the existing and approved pergola approved by Landmarks previously. And therefore, the addition of another stylistically different structure on the site would not achieve architectural consistency. As discussed within the staff report on page 12, to achieve design that is consistent with the previous site plan and Landmarks approval, which was found to be compliant for the outside improvements on the western elevation between the building and Fifth Street, staff recommends that the applicant submitted sail shade option B be approved with conditions to incorporate similar features to the outside pergola to the south. These conditions relate to being materially consistent with the approved pergola in material and style, and ensuring that the structure does not exceed 12 feet in height and is no more than 200 feet in total area. Included on page 12 is a rendering that demonstrates what that acceptable design may look like. Staff found that all other modifications are consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards. Based on the findings of fact drafted in the staff report, staff recommends approval of the landmarks review application subject to conditions as outlined on page 17 of the report. Thank you.
Question. What are the speakers for, and what is the building going to be used for that needs speakers?
It currently functions as a brewery, and
Well, how come it didn't say that in here?
because that's already been approved.
Oh.
They've already gone through a process for this, and this is just minor modifications to the exterior.
Oh.
Yeah, so no new use.
You should go down there and check it out.
Oh, I will. On the speaker, from music to be moved on the outside and,
There's a small outdoor seating area for their customers. Yeah,
okay, good, I wasn't up there. Thank you.
And I understand there's, speakers are currently there, but they're protrude from the building and these will be, or recessed.
these are intended to just stay. And really, you know, kind of at least staff's findings within there, you know, this isn't a historic building, although it's in the historic district. They're pretty far away from the right of way and already obscured by kind of a number of architectural features such as the pergola, and just didn't appear to impact any architectural features associated with the building in previous landmarks reviews.
Says installation of speakers on the western elevation.
It's really a retroactive approval. They have been installed.
There's a couple of things they put in.
Mhm.
Yeah, taking care of that, plus things.
Any other questions for staff? We'll now hear from the applicant.
Hello. I'm Casey McMacken, and this is Kyle Larson, my husband. So we own the Walled Garden Pub, which is now in place of Dana's promotion wetsuit building. And yeah, so most of this application was honestly our misunderstanding on certain things, that because we had submitted, for example, the color change on the building and you guys approved it, then that became required. So we started the process, got a quote, said, no, the paint looks fine. It doesn't need to be redone. And it was outside of our budget. And so we decided to leave it and didn't realize that once it was approved through this process, that made it required, as opposed to we have the option. So that's some of this just like housekeeping stuff that were with some of like the removal or the speakers was just an oversight. So this is our first time doing all of this. Yeah, first rodeo. And then the main change, as Jacob was saying, is the sail shade structure. And so initially Dana had submitted one sail shade structure, and then we've kind of been going around trying to figure out what the best way to find a compromise or an approval in order to keep our customers and our staff out in the food truck safe from the heat and protected from, you know, natural elements, heat, basically. And to create an area for people to gather with shade. And then what is in line with what you guys approved through the landmarks and maintain the historic, you know, integrity of downtown. And so Dana's structure, the city found was insufficient. Is that what the wording was, Jacob?
Just a limited amount of information, and with the information that we could find, it was really hard to make any determination that it would be compatible with the district or the features on the existing site.
And sorry.
The recommended conditions that you added satisfy that lack of information.
That's correct.
Yeah, so we've been talking with Jacob and Dustin to try to figure out what we can do to sort of meet the form and function aspects that are needed for that sail shade structure. So Dana's proposed structure one thing we discussed was trying to incorporate elements to make it feel more like a garden trellis, to grow ivy, to incorporate elements to sort of soften it and make it feel more at home. And then we also proposed the option B, which was more of a wooden pergola structure. So those are sort of what we're coming to you guys looking for direction on today.
I guess the only questions I have are, you specifically call out English ivy, and I'm not sure if that came from you or if that's something that you included. I have great concerns about that from it being a certain
Invasive.
species.
We would find something that would grow.
So that's descriptive.
Yeah, this was kind of like, I don't know if this ended up in the.
That did make it into the package.
This was in the packet. This was just like, for example.
Right,
To
okay.
try to make it feel like a garden trellis. It's the walled garden, we have plants and clematis and things happening, and
Right.
trying to make it just feel like not so just the sail shade structure, if Dana's were approved by you guys, to introduce elements that make it feel cohesive. And if
I
you
love your
guys
description, but I'm just concerned with English ivy purity.
pretend I never said that, strike that from the record, Holly. Some sort of growing thing that is non-invasive, yeah.
And I think it's also important to point out that Dana did get engineering done on the structure that he submitted that I don't think is in your guys' packet or was not recommended. It is slightly different than that because we had to reduce it down in size and essentially just take out one whole section, but it still wasn't recommended, which is why we tried to go with some way to soften it, because they said it didn't fit with the overall landmarks review. So we're trying to come up with some way to like work in between that, and while we feel like it would be a great option, it hasn't been recommended.
Well, I guess now I'm confused. So there's recommended conditions which include on the trellis. And are you saying that that's a newer version of something that you started with, that you worked with staff to come up with that?
Yeah, it was submitted originally. There was a sail shade structure submitted to have done, but they said they wouldn't recommend it. And so we came up with this option A, which they still wouldn't recommend. So we have the engineering and everything behind it. But they have chosen, Jacob and Dustin have chosen not to recommend it, even with the ivy or something growing up on it. And we feel like it's a great option, but they have not recommended it. So we also put in option B, which is that pergola.
That they did recommend.
That they would recommend.
So this one is option A,
Which hand, both of them?
yeah, and then this one that's one of the built, what is structured is option B.
Okay, yeah, I was confused by that.
Yeah, I was probably confused.
Okay.
Can you come down?
Yes, it was.
Make sure there's
So option A was with this guy.
Yep.
Okay. And then with the potential for planting, And then option B is more of a wooden deck. The rest is your option. Yes. And this is J. They're the same. They're just different angles of the same thing.
Kind of down at Jacob.
Is option A, is that, is it, as presented, is that removable in the winter?
It is technically removable if we were growing something on it that was, you know, growing over time, and we wouldn't want to necessarily tear it down every winter. But technically, yes, the pipes, the structure would be removable if needed.
Maybe maybe that was the original sail shade that was spoken about being removed each winter time.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the sail shade themselves would be, or could definitely be removed every winter. It's the structure itself is if we're growing stuff on it, then that would be the thing that would be hard to
Option A
remove.
is meant to be more of a, like year round.
And so Jacob had, or staff had problems with option A, saying that there wasn't enough information. I think you just said that you've since had engineering done.
the engineering was done prior.
Wait, what's option A?
Yours,
Design?
Yes.
Design's option A.
correct.
And option B is,
The deck, more of a like the wooden deck option.
right.
Yeah,
So option A, there is engineering done on, it was engineering done for a much larger, essentially double the structure. Right, and so since there wasn't enough space and how things worked out, reduced it to half of it. And so while there isn't specific engineering for half of it, there's engineering for
that
the
structure.
majority of it. So, and it can be done to do it.
So my question of you is that described in a condition?
So the history behind this is you guys approved Dana Love's original sail shade structure, which was these pole features shown in the original renderings with sail shades attached to the tops of these poles. Then there was a building permit that came in at a later date that showed something that had been engineered that was not consistent with your guys' approval. So now they're coming in to try to approve what has already been engineered. Staff is recommending not to approve that because it's not consistent. We found it not consistent with the district or compatible with the site. And then they also suggested an alternative option sail shade or option B, which staff can recommend subject to some conditions of approval having to do with material and color.
And that, I got that. We have to, it's in the condition, we recommend to be,
Sorry.
just, do we?
Repeat that?
Change a condition of approval, and if we approve what you just described.
So that should be in the report already.
Is it?
Yeah. And you're looking to modify one?
No.
Okay.
I'm looking to see if it's also carried over the conditions.
It does. So what we did was in the conditions, which you'll find,
Number 3.
yep,
got
at
it.
number 3. Approve that subject to the conditions having to do with the material and style. And then we also just allowed them to remove the sail shade completely from the site. So should they decide not to do anything, they don't need to come back to you guys to try to remove something that was never constructed, much like what we're doing with the fire pit or the southern storefront.
And what about the paint color?
That's optional now. So they're maintaining the paint color. They just don't need to do it. They don't want to.
So I guess where I'm a little confused is you brought up this option that staff is not recommending.
Correct.
Are you asking us to consider that, to consider overruling staff's opinion on that? Or are you satisfied not doing that?
I mean, it's obviously up to you guys. I think what Jacob had explained to me, if I'm understanding correctly, was that option can still come in front of them without your recommendation. Is that right?
That's just a staff recommendation. The landmarks can make any decision one on that.
Yeah, so I guess we don't know.
Yes, option A or B.
The sail shade structure is to our benefit. We like the sail shade structure, but we're also happy with option B. So I think option A would be our priority, is what we'd like, but obviously it's not recommended by staff. So if you guys can look at it and want to look at it, that's fine.
That's exactly what I'm asking. So
Yep.
after you guys are finished, I'm hoping that staff can explain why this is incompatible with scale and scope. I forget what your words were, but I wonder what those are.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Any further questions for the applicant?
I think we may have questions after we hear from staff.
Perfect.
I'll take public testimony.
Would that be me?
Dana?
I don't think we let owners talk.
My name's Dana Love. I'm the current owner of the building, a building that we put up 25, 30 years ago, back in the day. That building was built as a phased project, intended to be built over a number of years. I wasn't willing to take on all the debt required to do that, especially in today's environment. Maybe my kids will, I don't know what happens down the road. So as a phased project, it didn't cover the lot completely. So there's a lots of lot there for additional phases of that building. And I've started renting space to this new movement, the food cart thing, right? And we did that for a few years, and I thought, well, this is kind of a neat thing, but let's step it up a little bit. I'd seen some nice food carts in the Bend area, where they offer, you know, a place to sit and a pad shades and the whole deal. And so I designed a patio pergola and sent that over to Bell Design to have it engineered, thinking I could just get this back and put it up, and away we go. And it got pulled by planning, telling me that I have to go through this thing called a site plan review. So I started down that road. It's been a long road. But we made it through this historical preservation committee. We made it through planning and went forward. In that initial site plan, I introduced sail shades because I didn't want people standing out in the sun. This was long before Kyle and Casey came to me with an interest in maybe moving their tap room into this building. This is my segue into my retirement. Was I'm shutting down Promotion Wetsuits, and I've paid off this building over the years, and now I have somebody that a potential tenant that can come in and utilize the space. So I had already put into plan the plans for the pergola and the patio, and it made a lot of sense with what they were doing because it works. I mean, you go by there on most days you can't find a place to sit outside in that patio. So on the sail shade, I'm really up here to defend my sail shade design, but I'm giving you the kind of the background version, if you don't mind. So the sail shade design that I initially added to my site plan didn't really work once we got the food cart in place, and looking at the layout, and it was a triangular set of sail shades around a pole, and it just didn't work. So I started thinking, well, I want sail shades, but I don't want to do it like this. So we submitted a couple things, and we kind of went back and forth. And I thought I was on the right track when I saw what I really wanted was something that was garden-like, which was thin frame metal painted black with the really airy sail shades. These would be sail shades that come down in the wintertime, and they filter the sun. You don't get the hot sun, but they're not that bulky, super tight sail shades that you see at big parks and things like that. But Where I saw what I liked was down at the Best Western. There, if you've been down to the garden patio on the water, they have the same thing. It's a metal frame, and then the shades hang from that. And I probably should have checked with planning before I went to Bell Design. I said, this is what I want. Can you guys engineer this so it works? And they did. Unfortunately, here we have these engineering requirements that structures have to withstand 100+ mile-an-hour winds. So engineering to do a thin structure like that, you've got to have horizontal members to support the wind conditions. So that's what came back. And I submitted that to the building department because they wanted engineered drawings. And then again, it got pulled by planning. And they said, well, this isn't what you had in your initial design. You have the triangle, you know, this isn't what you can't do that. Even though I just spent a ton of money getting this engineered, and it was what my vision, that was my vision. That's what I want down there. And so they go, you know, they pretty much shot it down. So that's why I'm here. I'm defending my original vision. Do you have a picture of, it's basically thin metal tubing with the shades draping from the top, and it comes down in the winter time. It's not a,
Just to clarify.
yes.
What you're saying is that staff shot it down to say it was not compatible with previous approval.
That's correct. What was submitted as building permit was a different design than what had been permitted or approved by Landmarks.
So, and one of the reasons that I heard from staff that got shot down is because it had the horizontal members as opposed to just poles sticking up. Well, you can't do a thin sail shade like I wanted to do if you don't have those support poles to withstand those winds that we get here. Just a side note. So the building that I had built, it's a historical looking building. And it was designed by a local architect. He's passed away, but to be compatible with the turn of the century buildings here, right? Sail shades, the earliest sail shades came out in like the 1980s in Australia. And they got popular in the 1990s. So I'm a little, you know, so if you want to put up sail shades, they didn't go back to the turn of the century. In fact, when Hood River was early in Hood River's days, they had circus tents. They used circus tents out here, framed circus tents. So at the turn of the century. I think that's all I've got on paper here.
Question, Dana.
Yeah.
So looking at the picture that you walked around with earlier, you talked about the sail shade hanging down. What I see in this picture is just the roof portion, like this square covering the area. Is there anything that hangs down?
That's their concept.
He's talking about your picture.
Yeah, the one on page 11.
My concept is a rectangular frame, steel tube frame, which I find is compatible with the rectangular pergola and the patio and the building.
I think what you guys are talking about this, I think because it's a mock-up, it just shows it as a black top, but it's the strip out. Obviously, you don't super, these are the ones that, that's Western and Library, this is right.
This is page, these are down. So.
Jacob, you can shut that door.
I don't think so, just because public meeting.
Oh.
Yeah, we can ask them to apply it.
Okay.
Page 36. Page 36.
I think Dana's mock-up just shows it as sort of a black rectangle on top, but the idea is that it's softer.
Have any of you been down to the Best Westerns, the waterfront dining, the outdoor dining? And I don't know if you noticed the sail shades down there, but that's pretty much the feel that I was going for. It's very garden-like. It's very light. It's not bulky. I didn't want to compete with the pergola. The pergola is bulky, and I didn't want to compete with that.
And so on page 36, two pictures of sails, and one of them has horizontal members. Is that what you're saying is similar to what Bell Design came back with as a requirement for the sail system you were trying to design?
One more time.
On page 36, we have a drawing.
Can I look at your page 36?
Yes, that's question. So that was one of the.
Yes. So the frame will stay up year round and we have lights,
Dan, if you, just so.
Yeah.
Folks on. Thank you.
so the frame would stay up year round, just the sail shades would come down. And
Talk about a horizontal member, that's a drawing showing what you mean by that.
yes, think of a box. We've got the leg box, yeah, it's a box shape. So I was here in support of my original design, and the reason why Kyle and Casey came up with the new design is because they need shade for their food cart. That's an area of the property where they don't want people hanging out in the hot sun, waiting for their orders or placing their orders.
Can I say one other thing about that? Is that also with the sun at the end of the day on a metal box food truck is not safe for our staff. I mean, we keep it cool, we shut windows, we're doing everything we can. So it's really like what we're looking at, we need the function of the sail shades to keep everyone safe and comfortable and public feel welcome, and then we're just coming to you guys for support in the forum to find that balance. And we would love to go with option A with Dana's option, and if that doesn't work, we're totally open to option B and open to your recommendations, and appreciate you guys.
So I'd really like to hear from staff what the issues were that they had with option A.
It sounds like it was approved, and
Well,
that engineering is not.
right, so that's, I want to hear explanation of what's going on there. What is problematic?
So
No, it's I'm still getting questions answered.
So actually, if you go to page 11, you'll see where staff contemplated this a little bit more. And it was really related to one, kind of a lack of information beyond just these renderings. They gave an idea of kind of overall massing, which in and of itself is rather large and wouldn't have a sail shade, there all the time anyway. So you just have this steel reinforced kind of, cage-like feature that is there during the winter months that is materially inconsistent with anything else on the site and really anything else in the surrounding area. And if you also look to between the pergola and the existing structure, there's already two different kinds of architectural kind of material features on site. And adding a third feature when there's an option B that was suggested that has an opportunity to maintain some level of consistency with the outside non-detached structures. Staff felt that was far more consistent for the site, the existing site, and previously approved features by the Landmarks Board.
I'd also like to point out that one of the conditions of approval on the pergola, another thing was like all the poles had to be wrapped in metal so that they looked like metal. It has a metal roof on the pergola. The sail shade structure that we're proposing is made out of metal. So it actually is metal, it's just not something wrapped in metal. So I think you can argue that it is fairly consistent from a metal looking standpoint. That's my comment.
I'm wondering if, Jacob, you could say a little more about how the Secretary's standards, you know, because this is new construction, right? So the Secretary's standards are pretty vague, as I recall, when the new constructions are.
We're in a whole world of gray area.
Let's actually more about why you're concerned about the consistency of materials, consistency of massive space.
So I think the thing that staff really keyed on and really based a lot of these recommendations on was for Secretary of Interior Standard number 9. Says new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. That's not what this does. But the new work shall be differentiated from old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features and historic integrity of the site and existing structures. And we've already gone through landmarks processes for the actual building that Dana constructed in the early 2000s or late 90s, whenever that was, and 2 years ago for the approval of this pergola. And we just find it that it is not consistent with basically the architectural features that are already on site. And that was articulated on page 11. The architectural features are one, the red promotion building that has minimal modifications to it as part of this review. And then the pergola structure, which is steel roofed with a steel wrap, large timber frame structure. And with sail shade option B, it would match that and keep some level of continuity and not add another architectural feature that's inconsistent with the rest of the site.
I have a few questions at this point. I wonder if there's an option C that can be explored, and I don't know, mean to throw a bubble, but there's already the black metal that's similar to like an iron gate on the fence and the facade of the beams on the pergola. Would that color option, regardless of the metal type, be an option instead of more of a silver metal?
No, I was gonna use black metal.
You were gonna use black.
Yeah,
okay,
the whole,
because the rendering here
the whole frame is,
shows
is,
all of it.
is black metal tubing.
11. That would be more compatible with the metal elements that are already existing.
Yeah, and these, and in building the structure, I'm not using plumbing parts. These are actual fittings for the purpose of this type of structure.
Are they square?
Well, a corner would have 3 legs, and there's a whole slew of different pieces to make up. Yeah, they basically accept 1-inch steel tubing.
It is round tubing. It's not square tubing.
It's round tubing. It's round steel tubing. I should have brought the pieces, and I was thinking about bringing these fittings with me, but I got busy out.
Since the other two structures have square, I feel that if there is square tubing available as an option, that would be. more
Yes,
compatible with
only
what's on site.
the racks that I removed from my shop that hung wetsuits. I wanted to repurpose that material, which is round steel tubing, 1-inch tubing.
It's actually relevant, isn't it? From the Secretary's point of view, use materials.
Let me check really quick.
Sorry. You're supposed to know.
Well, that reuse is generally for this
No,
purpose.
but reuse of materials, that reuse of materials.
Reuse of materials, but again, that's generally gonna be historic materials.
Yeah, yes.
The gray area is that we have a modern building within a historic
those-
district.
Those
We
racks,
do have the context that this was more industrial part. And the black metal, I think, fits that industrial.
What's this pretty sorry.
I was gonna say, those racks have been in there for 25 plus years.
My closet, I see colors that you don't see. nature anymore.
Oh. The eighties neon greens and such,
Ours was 8-7.
okay, so now we're hearkening to the Dallas Bridge as it's weird. No, all jokes aside, the reason I ask these questions is I think there is potential for a slight redesign on option A, so maybe you could call it option A-2. That doesn't have the wooden elements, but could have compatibility with what's there.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's the general.
If that, to summarize, where we're going.
You're talking about basically you're agreeing that you agreeing with Jacob that the mishmash of materials, so I mean, square stuff, around stuff and fabric stuff and part stuff is a little too much, but you're finding a way to soften those differences.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing, exactly, something that, because we have modern elements outside of a modern building within a historic district that has an industrial history in this area. That the design of this, you call it a third modern detached element, could have compatibility with the other two, that being the low fence and then the pergola. I hope I'm being clear. I feel like I've had a long with my regular.
Yeah. They're saying this is silver. So, and one of those things that you're saying is an option would be ensuring that the metal tubing that's used to build the sail shade structure is black to be cohesive with the elements of the pergola.
With a geometry that's rectangular. So it wouldn't be a reuse of.
Black square too.
Black.
That's a whole year, nothing around it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to repurpose that metal.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of to you, Dana, because if it has to be, I mean, the black aspect is easy. Well, and I mean, I think that's part of the conversation that I had with Dustin in regards to introducing something potted and climbing to soften it, and a lot of it would get covered, you know. A lot of the piping would get covered, and I wonder if that's another way rather than doing rectangular tubing to kind of reduce and reuse and recycle what Dana has, which I do think that there's value in, especially, I don't know, just ending up in the landfill otherwise.
Excuse me. Planning mentioned that they would accept round support poles for the sail shades if they were chunky, if they were bulky. I don't want that. So why would thin round not work when chunky round would?
Well, I mean, Dustin and Jacob's opinion is what's their opinions, but we put our own opinions, so. You know, that's why you get to make the argument to us.
So when we had previous conversations about the size of the poles, that was in relation to probably something similar to the original proposal with no cross members that were horizontal, which does change the massing in staff's opinion. And actually, there's an option to maintain the original approval as well and do something similar to the original pole placement without cross members that we also wrote into the report.
Yeah, this is where the history comes into play, because I think about what this region was, and there were 3 lumber yards within a block of this space, and they all had stacks, racks and stacks, and sort of temporary looking structures and permanent looking structures and overhangs and sheds and stuff like that. So I really have trouble imagining anything that Dana could be proposing would be historically inconsistent.
Because of its location.
Because of its location, right? Because this is where all the lumber yards were, the river, as well as where you go to get your bits of coal and stuff. And, I mean, I think about, you know, what the Home Depot in the Dells, what the garden area looks like, or Walmart's garden area. It's like, that's what these things look like in the photographs. So we're trying to be really classy now and say our town, you know, that we don't have kind of this mix of materials in our town, but I think that area did have a mix. Like I said, a block away from that was where all the utility poles were stacked on their way up into the valley before they got dragged up there by Model Ts to be, you know, to be put up. So
That's cool.
having a beautiful building like Dana built with something that looks a little bit patched together, but is done with good material, I don't find that to be historically inappropriate.
I think one thing to note is vegetation and landscaping fall outside of landmarks, so, you know, if there's any findings that you guys are making about that obscuring, that falls outside of these criteria.
I was just gonna beg not to have English ID.
I promise you, there will be no English. We had it all over our house that we rented in England for 3 years and it was not,
Well, that's England, don't belongs there.
yeah, that's true.
Has to stand on, what you just described has to stand on.
Yeah, I can see making an argument that would stand on its own, saying that putting a few different uses like this together, putting a few different materials and a few different concepts. I'm not offended by it being different materials. I'm not offended by it being, you know, one is a hard structure, the other is a soft structure. I just don't find that to be problematic, but that's, I guess, what we're supposed to decide.
And Kyle and I care deeply about the aesthetics of the space. And if you guys have been down there to see what we've built, whether inside and outside, we have put a lot of love and care and thought into how it looks. We want it to feel inviting and approachable and also elegant, and those we're committed to that vision. You know, our food truck is subtly painted in kind of like a very light gray sky blue. We're very committed to it looking beautiful.
Free beers, come on down.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We kind of got.
I think it's a strong argument. Also, just looking at the Secretary of Interior standards and thinking about structures I've worked with, there's the resiliency to natural hazards section that can be applied to, say, putting on a new roof on a historic building, replacing cedar shingles with faux cedar shingles for better fire resiliency, which I've overseen several projects out at Eagle Creek, and that has become an acceptable replacement because you're still matching form, but not, and maybe color, but not necessarily material type. And from a distance, those faux roofs look good. Up close, they are definitely differentiated from historic cedar shingles, but that context being applied to resiliency to natural hazards, even if we're all installing a modern element, that the cross members, I think, could be argued to fall within the need to withstand the winds that we get here in the gorge.
You said cross members, and I think you're talking, I think you're just.
Sorry, the horizontal cross members or the sunshade, that being one of the pieces that staff have found are not in line with Secretary of Interior standards. But cross-referencing it with that need for resiliency to natural hazards, that's the reason for those cross members, for those horizontal cross
Okay, I thought you.
If you're seeing where my logic is going.
Yeah, no, I'm following. I thought your logic was like elements, or your fabric elements.
No, I think it can apply to any material type that if you have a need for, or including that resiliency to a structure that may not have had it as much with its original historic factor. And applying that standard here, even though it is not a strict application.
So Dana did bring up the tent concept, I think, you we talked about tents, right?
Yeah,
I
I've
could
seen,
fill
that
in
there were a canvas tent-like buildings in
There-
Hood River back in.
Every 2 years, there was a biennial fruit festival, which is what's now our county fair, but every 2 years, and they would put a tent at Second and Cascade. Before there wasn't a bridge over the railroad there, there was just an open area there, and then that intersection became a large tent in which people would go and see all the fruits and stuff. That was every 2 years. Oh, yeah, we have great pictures of that. I mean,
Look at that tent.
none of it's gonna look like this. I think he's just justifying the use of soft materials. And I think I didn't have to go there to get to the soft materials. But there is a historic precedent. I'm just trying to fill in what Dana was referring to, so you guys would know what was talking about.
I can get there with your thought process.
How would you condition it though?
Well, we should probably get a.
I guess, let me just rephrase my question a little bit, because what I've seen is everything that Dana has done and everything that the applicants have done is very tasteful. But we don't know who's gonna own this building next, we don't know, so we have to describe things in a way that someone who isn't as good about this, who you know, we don't have the same level of trust in, is still going to do things that are going to be more reasonable. So that's what I'm asking, how you could describe what we've talked about.
I think we need probably another site plan showing it. Or it's a picture, drawing, submit a drawing with what exactly you'll be doing.
Well, I have submitted, I use program that does 3D modeling. I can show it any way you want to see it.
So you guys want to see it with the rendering with the black poles, softer sail shade, look something.
So you can actually say that we approve from a landmark's point of view, the use of the structure substantially similar to what's shown in this picture. And those would be the words that we would use. We have that picture.
Well, and that was where Dana had done this one, and then the one of the examples of like the one at Best Western. Yes, that's the one that you have there.
Wait, no, that's the site, isn't it?
No, it's just the same picture, I think, Dana.
Dana also has a revised site plan shown on page 40 of the packet. 40.
That's a perspective shot, yeah. I think. But, also, see it, yeah, this is the support.
Yeah.
This is the support.
That's another piece of the report where.
That's for the people. Yeah, I think there's policy we just filed, so I'm not saying either.
Is it this one?
That's the top view. This is the one.
That's what I have.
I don't know why that. Not so. Why is that right there? Oh, it's
That's the truck.
it's the food court,
Yeah.
right?
That's the food truck.
Can I take this around? Just,
That's included in the packet, so you're good.
Yeah, so page 39 is that what we're talking about?
That's the oblique shot. Yeah, that's 39.
Yeah, there's 3 different roof-like structures.
yes,
And I want to understand what those 3 are. The rightmost one, that is, why don't you talk me through each of those 3
the,
structures?
okay, the one furthest to the right is the pergola. Is the shaded pergola. The one in the center is the proposed sail shade. Right behind it is the food cart. And
That's a food cart.
That's where our existing food truck is.
that's your existing, yeah. And then further down, it's that we drop in elevation.
Yeah.
And there are planters screening the containers in the back. And then finally, at the very end, there's a shed to cover the trash can receptacles.
So the middle one is the one that we're talking about, I guess.
Yes.
And my first question is, does it actually fully extend over the car?
No.
It's not intended to do that?
No.
Bees poles.
I think we talked about needing to protect the.
Well, it's that angular sun that heats up,
It's the shadow.
that heats up the face of the food cart.
Second question is, I have eaten there and I interacted with you on the south end of the cart, not on the west end. So this seems to cover the west side, not the south side.
Correct, and where we need the coverage is on the west side. That's where people queue up to order, and that is where we're getting hit from the sun at the end of the day.
I've only been there in the winter and there's no sun, it's not beautiful.
No, right?
Can I ask you what, just curious, what do the Conex boxes serve as?
What's the what?
The Conex boxes,
The shipping containers?
yeah.
There's storage for the wetsuit business. And I've had to vacate the building and they'll be there till I get rid of all that stuff that was in my building.
We asked about that before, I think it was,
They're painted the same color as the building. They've been there for a
Yeah.
long time.
honestly, when it came up at the last hearing, I had to go back there and say, really, where are those? Is it, you know,
They're just blended.
they're not as noticeable as they are on this drawing.
Yeah, I should have probably rotated my building a little bit more.
You can see them kind of peeking out in one picture, just have to be able to see them, they're top back, same color, and now they're with the screen planters, they're just right there.
Yes, I guess you know, I would have no trouble with, you know, taking this drawing on page 39 and saying, you know, that we're approving something and, you know, scale massing materials substantially as shown in this drawing, you know, maybe say a few more words about materials, but.
I think we'd be looking for you guys to probably lock in the size of the posts themselves and the height. And then also confirm that, you know, it appears that it would fix onto the existing structure and just kind of make sure that we have some of those parameters set for you guys. So when we get the building permit submission, we ensure we're doing what you guys approved.
Okay, so I guess. You know, what's the list of things that we need from a landmarks review point of view?
Well, this is your guys' decision, and it sounds like you're moving towards this being compatible. So the posts, we'd want to know, it would be helpful to lock in the diameter, whether it's 2-inch or 4-inch or 1-inch or whatever you guys choose. Lock in the color, what paint it's going to be, and then, you know, some tone or color comment on the sail shade colors as well. And then, you know, some limit on the height. Because there's no call outs for that.
Specific, you have goals already in mind.
Repurposing 1-inch steel.
1-inch.
Engineered to withstand all of the wind forces natural.
Yes, I mean, that's within the scope of Bell's engineering that was done, yeah.
Bell
And-
understood that you were repurposing these.
Right,
planks and saying
right,
they
right.
need
Yes,
to-
Right.
you have cross spacing as well.
Yes, that's to withstand the winds that we get, yeah.
And then were you envisioning painting them or is painting within the, are these?
Oh,
I don't
they
know
need to be,
materials.
I want to paint them black. I want
Plans-
I want the frame to be black. Yeah.
Plans to paint them a matte black.
Yeah, yeah.
That's, it said matte black, so that's right.
That was a discussion for staff's recommendation of sale sheet option B, but I believe somewhere in the packet, Dana also mentioned the black color posts.
Last year. False. The real
Probably.
last year.
So we have to decide the diameter of the post,
Well, he already said, he said he's requesting it, so we have to say an inch is okay.
to tone or color of the sail. The same for what he, when I wrote it down.
Then
Tone or color of sail and height, and then
They're
material.
exactly 1 inch. The pipes are exactly.
Sail? Yeah.
We're just saying a fabric.
Yeah.
So
Is
it's,
the color have-
Is there a certain canvas thickness that's needed for
okay.
the wind resistance as well?
so what it is
Mm.
commercially grade sail shades. And it's not waterproof. It's a little bit more open weave. So that filters the sun. You're not standing in direct sun, but you're not completely out of the sun. And that gives it room to breathe, and it doesn't, yeah.
I think I'd like to see more presentation, I mean, a little, some of the material of the shades, bring in a sample of the pole, it's gonna be round, it's gonna be black. I don't think you have it all together for a vote today, do you? I don't know.
I do, because I know what a 1 inch pipe looks like, I know what black paint looks like, and I know what fabric coverings look like, is,
Okay, so.
so I can describe it in generic
So we
terms.
could all vote for it. Without any.
Conditioned. We would.
That's what we have to move forward to describe the limitations.
Yeah, and so far we have 4 things.
Remind me of there.
Diameter of post is 1 inch. Tone or color on sail. You guys can tell.
That,
What are you proposing?
The height of the post, oh, excuse me.
I
Or the
think I
height.
already had the height,
It's in there engineered.
Just give us the maximum.
Just,
so
How
I
tall is the?
think,
I think it was 12 feet.
not,
Above the top.
and the fabric is a commercial grade.
Yeah.
On the high end.
commercial
Yeah.
They
grade,
say not to exceed the height of the pergola.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So let's do that height.
And is the ground surface concrete, so the ball will be mounted
okay,
into
so
concrete and drilled
the,
into them?
no, that it's decomposed granite. And it has to be, according to Bell's Engineering, we have to mount them. The poles are gonna go into sleeves, and the sleeves are in concrete, the whole, it's engineered,
A foot.
so they're not gonna go flying away, right? That's what you
Even though
mean?
that might be slightly outside
Okay.
the purview, is a curiosity
And then
question.
whatever vegetation you put there, that's out of our scope, is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
so the last.
The fact that you put a pot around it, do we have to mention that? or-
Say, is that like a planter pot?
I think a planter pot would probably have to be mentioned as opposed to just some non-potted vegetative screening, which isn't contemplated. But yeah, a pot I think is some level of structure that's worth mentioning.
Do you guys agree with commercial grade sail shade? That's what I thought you said.
Yes.
Commercial grade awnings, what's
The
that?
same shade material.
Sail shade material is
Grade, sail
commercial
shade.
grade.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Don't just-
I wanna make sure that you said it right. Huh?
Is it great?
And color?
Not commercial grade, commercial grade,
Grade.
grade, yeah, yeah.
Yours said grade.
What's that?
Best color for the sale.
Well, it's gotta be compatible with the building, and we were thinking, like a tan or a gray, a shade of gray. Or I don't know if I'd wanna go the brick like the building, but, it's not gonna be a bright.
very
we can't-
natural.
Yeah, we don't want a bright color.
What do we say about the pergola color?
I think you could probably make some condition that it will be a darker neutral tone, which leaves availability for, gray or tan or whatever.
Yeah.
Will it also be compatible with the optional paint color?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good point, because we have the.
Which is a darker, I mean, it's a dark rainy afternoon, is like a soft grayish green, yeah.
Colors that are indefinite foods. Dark gray and color is just talk a little more.
Never even close to hearing. Pretty
Oh.
soon and they had.
Well, you're really under control here.
You said tacos and now everyone's hungry.
Well, we still have. The problem is that to make also we need.
So the color has to
Need
be.
to ask questions. That's part of the stage.
Well, if we make a proposal that includes these things that I've written down.
I think we have enough to close the hearing so that we can.
Yeah, I do too.
Deliberate.
Can I interject one more thing? I don't want to disrail the whole thing, but few nights back, I had this idea about this same structure, but instead of being in the ground, being mounted to big metal flower pots.
Mm.
I don't think
Is
it's
that-
liability.
Is that just, okay, that would.
Yeah.
What?
Strike that from the record.
Strike that last record.
What we were talking about was making sure that we include the fact that you can use potted plant materials around the poles, but you're talking about something
Right.
structural. now.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
taking that to another level, but strike that, yeah.
And concrete or that plan or whatever.
Yeah, I think one thing, I don't know, what we've learned in this is like if we're not very specific about something, or if we're too specific, it becomes an issue. So if it comes to like planting things, we would prefer not to have any planters in this proposal. And be able to put them in if we kind of want to in the end, or we don't have to, but if it's like becomes a contingent on us putting a barrel of not English ivy in there, we would prefer not to have that in there and just allow the structure to be the structure.
Yeah,
Clematis,
yeah.
you can learn the lesson that all you can eat means all you can eat, not all you want to eat.
Exactly. We learned it this last time around.
Okay, this concludes the public testimony and oral argument portion of the hearing. I will now close the public hearing. We will begin deliberations.
But I think we have a good list of conditions, assuming, we haven't yet figured out if we all agree, but I think Cindy can make a motion. I don't know if there are any other issues that we can talk about.
The only thing I have a question about is, are we using this as our, if I make the motion and make the list of things, we're making it based on this, is it?
I think that substantially similar to that, drawing is a great way to put it. And, staff can use the drawing, or something strays too much from that, but hopefully, a couple of, a rounded, I don't know. Additional diagonal brace that's necessary to tie something down, so this isn't gonna be too problematic. Because while you're working, I just want to say that, I've been involved in this building since the first plans came through. And, it's really, the care that Dana and folks have put into the design of this building, working with the architect, that we've been doing something which is really truly a great addition to the historic district. And so much so that now I kind of think of it as a historic building, and was getting confused as to whether the wetsuit stuff that was in it was a historic element, forgetting that was actually only 20 years ago and doesn't quite count as historic, but
It'll be historic eventually.
it will eventually be historic. But I really think that we should recognize that the applicant has been a tremendous steward of the landmarks district. You don't want to add any more testimony? You gotta tap that thing so it changes color.
Okay, so because wetsuits fade under direct sunlight, we had blinds on these huge wall of windows. And I have people coming into the new tasting room and going, "We love that you guys added these windows. These are great."
Right.
They'd been hidden for all those years. So.
Great. So you got a motion, Cindy?
Yeah, I just wanted to find the original conditions. I move to adopt, I don't know, what file number is it? Oh, file number 2026-19 landmarks review for exterior alterations to the building. With the proposed conditions on page 17 and 18 with a modification, I guess, to number 3. Just option A. Oh, I see. Okay, with a modification to option A, that would include. Sorry, I just was looking all over for the conditions and I lost my notes. There they are. That include the structure is the posts have a diameter of 1 inch. We will use square posts,
No, we're just,
any post.
unless you can't live with that, yeah.
Okay, you guys are okay with that?
I was.
So post, 1 inch.
1 inch diameter.
What?
I don't see if there's a landmarks reason why we should require square versus round.
Okay, then we're done with that one.
That's just me.
Okay, the height is a maximum of 12 feet, not to exceed. The height of the pergola.
So I think I would say just not to exceed the height of the pergola and let the pergola.
Okay,
speak
the
for
height of,
themselves.
the height of it shall not exceed the height of the pergola. I'm sorry, Jacob. I'm
No,
really.
it's great.
The fabric shall be a commercial grade sail shade compatible with the building, i.e. darker but neutral tone. And then I have, oh, we're not using potted material.
But no, I would propose that the color of the shade be substantially similar to the color of the pergola, right?
Right. Compatible with the building, darker material, darker neutral tone, fabric is commercial grade. Well, it says the fabric is a commercial grade, so it's sail shade compatible with the building.
Yeah, so we already have that.
Yeah, darker neutral, for example, darker neutral tone.
And then we're gonna add something allowing that they can use planted materials around the poles. 'Cause you were saying that,
Later on.
no, but you were saying that the pot itself would be a structure that needs to be mentioned.
Potted materials may be allowed.
At the base,
But it's just like,
at the base of the pole post.
see, that's getting into weeds.
No, they've gotta be in the lower
Are we talking about, I think we're talking about like the actual, like shape and material of the planter, which is, what you would have concern over, correct?
He's saying if we don't mention a planter, that when they come along and say we want to put a planter there, they're gonna say that that wasn't approved by the landmarks board.
It's not a structure. So it's, interesting that it wouldn't require any building permit and nor does it have kind of,
It doesn't make permanent change to the.
Yeah. nor is it fixed to anything. So I think if you guys don't want to mention vegetation, you don't need to, especially since that is not a criteria within the Secretary of Interior standards.
That's everything I had in my notes. I can even give you this piece of paper. Okay.
I'll second.
Just ask if there's any further discussion.
Any further discussion?
This is the good time. Don't want to derail it.
All in favor with Cindy's motion? Motion passes. Adjourn.
work.